Let's see. I think we can call the meeting to order when you're ready, Matthew.
Well, thanks, Pam, and I'll try to live up to the standard Mark set. Maybe no one's more sad that he retired than I am, but happy for him. This meeting is now called to order, and it is 9:32 Pacific.
Great.
I'm Matthew Jubitz, Jubitz Corporation. Been headquartered in Portland since 1952. We're a distributor and retailer of Bio and R99 in the city, so potential conflict there. And certainly want to welcome all fellow TAC members and the public. And then I'll ask Pam to read a conflict of interest statement.
Yeah, hi everyone. So members of the Renewable Fuel Standard Technical Advisory Committee include representatives of fuel producers and suppliers who may have a potential conflict of interest when participating in the committee's, lost my place, sorry gang. Where am I? Conflicts of interest when participating in the committee's creation and submission of recommendations to the BPS Director. If you have a potential conflict of interest, please state your name and the business with which you are associated. After disclosure, committee members with a potential conflict of interest may participate in any subsequent discussion and vote on the issue giving rise to the potential conflict of interest. So I'll now ask that we take roll call, and during that roll call, you can state your potential conflict of interest. So if you can unmute, state your name and the business with which you're associated. Let's start. I'm just going to call out folks on my screen. So Mark Ventura, can you start for us?
Yes, good morning. Mark Ventura. I work for Phillips 66. Phillips 66 has a potential conflict of interest as we are an importer of fuel in Oregon. We operate a fuel terminal in Portland, and we market under the 76 brand, and we supply petroleum fuels and renewable fuels.
Thank you. Andrew?
Yes, thank you. Hi, I'm Andrew Dyke. I'm an economist with a private consulting firm here in Portland, Echo Northwest, and no conflict of interest.
Thank you. Antonio?
Hello, Antonio here, Antonio Machado, representing Western States Petroleum Association, and I would like to disclose a potential conflict of interest.
Thank you. Ender?
Ender Reed, good morning, representing Neste US, and I'd like to disclose a potential conflict of interest as we are renewable diesel producers who participate in the Portland and Oregon market.
Thank you, Ender. And our new member, Jim.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I'm Jim Verberg. I represent BP Products North America, and as a producer and distributor supplier of fuels in Portland and in Oregon, I will disclose a potential conflict of interest.
Thank you. And I do understand we may have a representative filling in for Chris Efred today, Dave Vanthoff. Did you want to come off mute and introduce yourself? If you are here, give you a second here if you are. You may just be observing today, but Dave, do know that you're welcome to unmute and join the conversation anytime you'd like. Matthew, I'll pass it back to you for our next business.
All right, sure. By my count, I think we have 6 TAC members on the call, so that is a quorum. We need 4 for a quorum. And then, of course, first order of business here is to welcome back and introduce our newest TAC member, Jim Verberg. So thanks, Jim, for your time, and thanks for everyone else, all the previous TAC members for coming back here for a second term. So appreciate that. Jim, I know you just gave, obviously, an introduction, but you're welcome to say a few more words if you like. Here. Sure.
Yeah, thanks, Matthew. Yeah, so yeah, like you said, super sad that Mark retired. He's great to work with, great for this group of folks, but looking forward to working with being a member of the TAC. I was a member of the TAC before at a previous role, and so yeah, it's good to be back with everybody, and looking forward to 2026.
Thanks again, Jim. And then next order of business is to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. So Pam, I'll I think turn that back over to you. Make sure everyone got that.
Yeah. So you all received the previous meeting minutes. This was back in 2025. We met October 12th. Is there any discussion needed? If not, a member who was attending that meeting. So I will point out that Jim and Dave are not voting on this, but a member that was there, if they'd like to move, or if anyone wants to bring up any discussion, any edits to those minutes, we can do that now.
Move to adopt the minutes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. We'll move to a vote then. All in favor? Say aye, or I guess raise your hands if we can see that. I think there's actually a hand button
Aye.
on Zoom too, but
Aye.
aye.
Great.
Any opposed? All right. I'd say that the ayes have it. Motion is approved. All right. Next order of business is: are there any changes to the agenda? And Pam, are we showing the agenda on the screen?
I will do that next. Yeah, you received
Okay.
that as part of your meeting materials. And why don't I go ahead and share that now? Here we go. Share. Should be coming on your screen shortly. There we go. Come on. There it goes. Okay. So I did just want to point out that we have placed for public comment, but didn't receive any requests for public comment today.
Pam, I'm still seeing just a background desktop.
Really?
Yep.
Huh.
You may need to
Sharing
select.
my
You may need to select which either screen or application you're sharing.
Yeah,
I would
no.
try unshare and then reshare.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking at it. So share screen, share. Let's see if that works. As I'm sharing my screen.
Yep.
Yep. Now we see the
See it
agenda.
now. Okay, good. Thanks, Marty.
But long story short, I'm not hearing any potential changes to the agenda from the group.
That
Okay,
looks
great.
me.
Pardon, Mark?
Yeah, that's good. I don't have any changes.
Okay. Great. All right, Pam, I think it's back to you to go through the slideshow here.
Yeah. So next on the agenda is to review the bylaws, and you all received these as part of your meeting materials. I'm going to go ahead and pull them up on the screen. And just for those that are participating, we do have our bylaws on the RFS TAC program webpage. Just go search on the city's website. We do have that available, but they should be showing up for you here in a minute. And I would ask at this time, Maya Hyam is here from the city attorney's office. Maya, if you just wanted to unmute and introduce yourself. We're both here for UTAC to answer questions this morning. I was going to take the first chunk of the bylaws here and review them with you, but Maya, did you want to say hello first?
Yeah, good morning. My name is Maya Hyam. I'm with the City Attorney's Office, and I support the Sustainability and Bureau of Planning and Sustainability program. Happy to be here and answer any questions you have about the bylaws.
Thanks, Maya. So you all should be seeing page 1 of our bylaws. I went ahead and just made some highlights that I wanted to make sure I drew your attention to this morning. But go ahead, TAC, and just unmute and ask questions as we go. First of all, I think we all know purpose of of the Renewable Fuel Standard TAC, but I just wanted to highlight that we are kind of in the second phase of the requirement under the ordinance, and we are required to deliver a report on October 15th of 2029. So anyway, wanted to highlight that. City's role, that's essentially me, and Marty as our facilitator here, giving you assistance for your meetings. We are required to meet at least 4 times each calendar year. You can always call additional meetings. We have had additional meetings in the past, but we are required to meet 4 times a year. Moving on to the second page. So again, we're in our second term. We have 7 seats. We're just getting started with our first meeting in our second term.
Yeah, just I don't know if you have that on your version, but just on top of the page 2, the version that you had sent, I can't really see up there on the screen, but just under the Roman 4 membership and term, kind of the end of that statement here, just before the section A is I had something says must be a specific number, but must be a specific number. I don't know if you have that on. Yeah, right here on top of
I'm
page.
seeing it. Yeah, on the top of the page. Interesting.
Or it looks like maybe that was intended to be a reference. I'm not sure what that was.
That's a good. Thank you for pointing that out, Mark. I don't have an answer to that, but I can find out what that is about. Yeah, that's interesting. I'll find out. Get back to you all. Thank you.
Great.
Can I ask a quick question? Is everybody seeing a split screen with Pam kind of large on the left and the shared screen on the right? I think this might be a Zoom setting issue because we're recording. Pam, will you try turning off your video? Let's see if that solves the problem.
See it that way, so it makes the document small.
Really small. Okay.
Try turning off your video, and then everybody might need to. Nope.
No, you're just gonna see me. They're that.
Yeah. I'll look really quickly. I don't believe that there is a way to fix this during the meeting. I think it's a setting, like a behind the scenes Zoom setting about how it's recording. So
I guess in the meantime, you can zoom in on the document. You can maybe make the click on the plus. Click on the plus that is on top, just above the text there. Yeah, click here. Yeah. Okay.
Better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that, everyone. All right. Moving on into term limits. Don't really have, this just as a reminder around vacancies. We've gone through this before on the TAC. We go through a normal recruitment process if anyone needs to leave. Quorum. Actually not required to have a quorum to deliberate. In terms of, I don't know why I'm repeating all this to you. You guys can see it. I think I'll just pause here and let you read and ask any questions that have come up for you.
Pam, read this page or the whole document?
Oh, just on this section. I don't know if anyone has questions about quorum or general operating procedures. I think the meat of it and sort of the more interesting parts are upcoming. So I'm going to keep moving us along. This starts to get into communication, use of the office. I think you all know, you can't use the membership for personal financial gains or for financial gains for any relative or business. This just talks about the statement that I read at the beginning of every meeting. Here we get into some of the antitrust. I'm going to just pause here. Moving on, removal of members. So you're essentially serving at the pleasure of the director. You can resign at any time. The director could ask you to step off the TAC at any time. There's a process for that removal. Just a reminder, we have our chair, Matthew Jubitz, and vice chair, Andrew Dyke, and you are one or both of you are required to be in any meeting at all times. I'm sorry, not in the meeting, but presiding or designated at all times. Haven't recovered from my break yet, gang. A bit slow today. Let's see. This is just a reminder, you can have subcommittees needed. This talks about communications.
On the communications, I was saying some clarification here might be helpful because I've read this in kind of a very strict manner. So I was wondering if Maya could elaborate a little bit on what kind of communication or conversation can happen outside of this meeting.
Yeah, and so I have a clarification to your question. Are you talking about, so this communication section is really talking about the communications between members of the TAC with media or interest groups. Are you interested in that type of communication, or is that the clarification you want, or communication between TAC members outside of the TAC meeting we're having right now?
Yeah, just communication between TAC members and maybe what qualifies as an interest group.
So if it's, so that's a great question. So interest groups are, when we're talking about interest groups, it's typically nonprofits or an interest group that would be somebody that's going to be lobbying the city on behalf of a policy that they're trying to advance before the city. So, excuse me, somebody that, or a media group, someone that's going to be interested in advancing policy before the city, or is going to be required to lobby and have to register as a lobbyist. So if you read the communication section, so let's see if they've defined it. I haven't read this in a while. So we haven't defined interest groups. Here, have we? So media can be anybody with, large media groups, the Oregonian, Willamette Week, or somebody small with a blog. So that's become really loosely defined in our modern age, right? Very challenging to define. So a one person with a blog. So that can be very challenging to define. So media is very hard. Interest groups, a little bit easier. But if when the TAC is having these conversations with each other, you guys are a public group. So if you're having these meetings with each other, these conversations with each other, you've got to be very careful because you can trigger a public meeting. And those conversations could trigger public meeting laws. So you're going to want to be cognizant of that fact and the quorum requirements. You guys are how many? 7?
Hmm,
Yeah.
So,
that's correct.
so if there are 4 of you having those conversations and they're about the subject matter of these, excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold, about the content that you would be talking about in these meetings, you could be inadvertently triggering a public meeting. So you want to be aware of that when you're if you're speaking about the content that would potentially be coming before the TAC, that you could be triggering a public meeting. So that's something to be aware of, those communications outside of the TAC meetings, and to be aware of those quorum requirements.
Well, I appreciate that broad definition there of media, because that's kind of all right, Jim, I know you have a question.
Yeah, question, observation, and so you mentioned the one thing I was going to mention. It seems like this is about, Open Meetings Act, which I don't know if that's what it's called in Oregon, but making sure that we don't have quorums and we're not discussing TAC business outside of these meetings together. The second part on the media part, is this about making sure that if one of us was contacted by a media outlet, not that would happen, that we as individual members don't speak for the whole TAC?
That's correct. Yes.
Right. And so I think that's really the point of this section, is making sure it's not that if somebody were to contact our businesses individually, our businesses can't respond to them. That's separate, right?
Certainly. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not, yes, it's that when you're acting on behalf of TAC, that we want to make sure that there's a cohesive message.
Right.
You're exactly correct. That you certainly can speak on behalf of your exterior organization, that you're not giving up that right. It's that there's a cohesive message that's coming from the city, that we want to make sure that there's a cohesive message from TAC, and we don't want there to be a lot of one-offs. But we're certainly not asking that you give up any rights outside of your participation with the city. It's exclusively about your participation with as a TAC member, excuse me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so on this same page, I wanted to just point out the 2 different types of meetings and the requirements around those. So a regular meeting is what we're conducting today. I always follow best practices with, posting those at least a week in advance and minimum of 48 hours. I'm always well in advance of that, at least so far. And then we also have special meetings, which are meetings that a TAC member would call to discuss a topic. And that's part of what I want to talk about later today with our work planning for 2026. I'm curious if there's any special definitions we need to know around calling a special meeting, or if those are just what they sound like, a special meeting that a TAC member wants to call. With
Is the question whether there are who gets to call those?
Correct.
Sometimes those are defined in the bylaws. Your bylaws don't define those, so then it typically defaults just to best practices. So because your bylaws don't define those, what would happen is it would default to the best practices, and usually what the best practice is, it'll be that what is your leadership? It would be the presiding officer. So the chairperson has the privilege of calling a special meeting. So it will default to the chairperson has the privilege of calling a special meeting. The other thing you can do is amend your bylaws to set out who has the authority to call a special meeting.
Okay.
But it would be odd for the bylaws to be amended in a way that would give that authority to somebody other than the chairperson.
Got it.
Can I say one thing? I'm a little concerned about us giving Matthew this much power, but I'll just make that known here, and it's on the record now.
Thank you, Andrew.
Okay. We move on.
I have a quick question, and I don't know if it's okay to bring it back. You can tell me, we can do that later. On page 2 on the bottom, I'm just reading this, and I just want a clarifying. I see a clarifying question. So I read here, in the bottom of page 2, it says, since the BPS director is not obligated to accept or enact the recommendations. So basically, he's not obligated to act on the committee's recommendations, right? But should the director be required to formally respond to these recommendations, maybe kind of like helping with transparency and accountability?
Maya, is that something, if the TAC members wanted to see that in the bylaws, can we add that? So what Antonio is pointing out here is kind of addressed on the bottom of page 2, at the top of page 3, where it says the director is not obligated to accept or enact recommendations.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because the bylaws really are to govern the behavior of the TAC, right? They don't govern the behavior of the BPS director. So you could put something in there that requests a response from the BPS director, but because the bylaws are really about governing the behavior of the TAC, I don't think it's the appropriate document to attempt to govern the behavior of the BPS director. Although I think have you in the past, I mean, I don't think it's inappropriate to expect some type of response from the BPS director. It's just not the right document to expect to sort of get that type of direction.
I'd like to note, hi everyone, Andrea Jacob from the Climate Program, that our website does have the memo that was published in response. So there is a response in writing from the TAC recommendation. So it's not that it didn't happen. It's just, as Maya is saying, this isn't the document, but the norm was for us to provide the rationale, and that is published.
Thanks, Andrea. Yeah, I like the suggestion, and I think it's good practice, which has been done. Maybe if that's something that's desired, is that something that probably would have to go in the statute itself, right? If you wanted to, and approved by the council, right?
Well, under the new form of government, the council doesn't dictate the BPS.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So nice try.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm happy to hear that it's happening anyway. So that's good.
Antonio, can we move forward? Did you get your question answered?
I guess so. I just want to make sure that, the reason why we meet this is to be able to understand what the circumstances are around us, and then be able to provide information to the director and maybe suggest something. And I was thinking, well, if we suggested, we want to know why it is not adopted. So I didn't see it here. So I wanted to see if there's a way that we can, ensure that we get a response and we get a clarification. And this, I think it helps with accountability and transparency of what we're doing, but that's it. I think it's okay. I don't have a big issue. I just saw that the director's not obligated to accept any of our recommendations. So I was just hoping to get a little bit of understanding. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. And then the final page is, let us take a look at that. So essentially, I didn't highlight it, but essentially it says that you, the TAC, can vote to amend or basically make recommendations to amend anything in the bylaws, but it would be the Bureau Director ultimately that accepts those amendments. That's what this final paragraph talks about. And this we originally signed. It was kind of our first order of business when the TAC was formed for its first term. And this was back in November of 2023. We have a few more minutes left on this agenda item. I don't know if there's any other discussion. Not, we will.
So at least
moving.
it sounds like there's at least a typo correction, editorial change, and so then that was the process to get a revised bylaws.
Yeah, so I will make that correction, and then I mean, I need to bring it back to you so that you can vote at the next meeting to send it to the director, and then presumably the director will have no problem with that, sign a new set of bylaws, and then we'll get you back an updated version.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So next we wanted to move into updating you on where the policy has gone essentially since we had your recommendations late last year. So
I'm going to drop off if no one has any other bylaws questions, then I will drop off. I just want to make sure no one has anything, any other bylaws questions. Okay, hearing none, then I will drop off, but happy to have been able to join everyone. Thank you for your work on these issues. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Maya.
Thank you, Matt.
thank you.
Bye.
So in terms of the policy, you can see some dates here in the past where we conducted some engagement and research and drafting rule changes in November and December of 2025. We're now headed quickly toward a public comment period for those administrative rule changes. And you, along with anyone else that's associated with the RFS listserv, will receive notice of those changes and that public comment period by the end of January.
A question here. So are the rules, revised rules, already written or mostly written at this point?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And when you see them, when those go out for public comment, there's a very specific manner that those are publicized. And so you'll see strike throughs for anything that's been deleted and red text essentially for anything that's been added.
Okay. And can we talk about the scope of those changes or not right now?
I wouldn't say that's like under the purview of the TAC. You'll certainly have that public comment period to talk about it. Yeah.
All right.
So per our original ordinance, we were directed to bring any updates to city council by the 15th, February 15th, 2026. So that's why you see that specific number there. And then the May and July dates are just simply a reminder of the 50% blend requirements that go into effect for distributors and retailers. And then the bottom bullet there, you'll see just a note that we intend to issue a separate rule to adjust the CI to meet that OR GREET once DEQ finalizes all of the approved carbon intensity values.
So in my opinion, I don't understand why we need to have a separate rule for the CI. Why shouldn't that be? In my opinion, that should be part of that rule. In my opinion, there's no reason to wait for DEQ. DEQ has already established the new model, has already published the carbon intensity of what they call the ULSD, petroleum diesel, obviously the old one, the new one, so I emailed here the group. So we have there's essentially about a 4 CI difference between the old model and the new model. So my suggestion is let's take this 4 CI difference and apply it to the CI limit. I don't know what we're waiting on. What are we waiting for from DEQ?
I 100% hear your question. I would just reply that DEQ isn't actually finished yet. So we're obliged to wait until they actually finish with all of the analysis needed for the improved carbon intensity values. And so far they have a range for the various producers. And so we are waiting on that. And the word that we've gotten from DEQ is that they're doing those on a rolling basis and they won't be complete until the end of Q1. So we're still waiting.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the problem with that is so we'll get, I mean, so DEQ is updating individual producers CI. So like you said, there's a range. I mean, the range will be all over the place. I don't know what is it that we're waiting for? So, okay, so they'll have all of their CI numbers, but it'll be, again, so we're going to compare all over the place number versus all over the place number, as opposed to let's look at just one number that is defined already, which is the petroleum, CI or the standard or whatnot, but the petroleum CI is called the lookup value. That's well established. We know the difference. Again, in my opinion, there's no reason to wait. As the more we wait, the more confusion we're going to have. It's not going to bring any additional value. I mean, it's not going to change the difference between the Model 3 and the version 3 and 4 of the. We already know that. That's already known what the impact of the model is. So DEQ can reevaluate everybody's pathways, but it's not going to change the difference in the model. The model is already, they're not changing the model at this point.
I see what you're saying. I saw Andrea. Did you raise your hand?
I don't have a raise hand button as a co-host, so interesting.
I'll do it
manually. Okay. So what we're seeing though, I mean, Kyle is not able to join at the moment, but he was seeing a range of values that are much higher than that 4 grams for some of the renewable fuels. So given that this is about renewable fuels, he wasn't necessarily comfortable using the fossil diesel to basically, we're not ready, Mark. We feel like we need to do more analysis. So we understand what you're saying. And we had it. So the way this would go is that we would actually delay all the rule changes till DEQ and we feel ready, but we had a need to split them out. So we were trying to, actually get in the sooner time frame, clear up some other things that have just been hanging out for a couple of years. We're solving problems for some of our covered entities that are like distributors and, not in this room. And then there were also changes to the rules that need to be made just to recognize the form of government change. And we are very remiss in doing that. So instead of delaying everything, we pulled them apart. And that's the rationale. There's potentially a different process with the GREET that might involve code, and we weren't ready to go to council with that either. So we saw a value in just saying, let's do the housekeeping parts now, and let's let DEQ certify all of their values. Kyle wants a full data set. He just does. That's just how we do business. And we will issue an emergency rule as soon as we humanly can to address GREET. And then see whatever process needs to happen after that. But our goal is to have an emergency rule in place in the spring at some point. So we're moving as fast as we can.
Okay, I understand.
Andrea, I'd love to jump in really quick, if I may. Kyle Diesner with Bureau Planning and Sustainability. Well, you can't see my face, so I wasn't visible. So, Mark, I hear what you're saying, but what we use is not the ULSD CI. And I understand that is pretty clear, but we actually need the biofuel CI. That is what is in our code. And so those are where they're still on there's still a wide range we're seeing. 4 is about the average. But I need to look at the individual fuel products. There may be products that are above, have increased more than 4 that are products that we want to allow for sale in the city. So it does require more detailed analysis. And I do need to wait for those biodiesel CI factors, the renewable diesel and biodiesel.
Okay, I understand. Thanks for the feedback.
You're welcome.
Yeah, my concern, obviously, I understand what you're trying to do, but my concern is the timing of all of this, because technically we would want that CI to be, updated, I guess, in effect, kind of retroactively through January, back to January 1, 2026. Understanding that reporting won't be due until June of 2026. So as long as as long as it can get updated by the end of June or before the end of June, that's essentially kind of the deadline.
Our plan is to do it sooner than that, as soon as we get the data back at the end of Q1. So we'll move forward with that as quickly as we can.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, Mark, can you repeat what you said about the retroactivity? Get back to what
well, I was, so if the compliance, since the compliance period on a calendar year, I believe it's January 1st through December 31st, 2026. So the CI standard, if we want to call it that way, should be consistent throughout the year. In other words, should be in place technically as of January 1, 2026, which is obviously already passed. But because we, for folks who are doing the book and claim reporting, it's done on a quarterly basis, and that first quarter report won't be due until June. So that give us, some time to get that standard in the regulation, before the reporting.
Got it. Yeah. And so, Kyle, what you were saying, if it's done as soon as possible, then got it. Thanks.
Yeah, from Bureau Planning and Sustainability again. I have not talked to the city attorney yet about making that retroactive. I saw that request from you in the email that you sent. I believe that was yesterday or the day before. And I've been out with some medical issues, unfortunately. So I don't have an answer on that piece, but I will certainly follow up on that request. I think it's a good. I'm glad you flagged that, Mark. That's helpful. Because I was intending to start it with Q2. So I appreciate your perspective on that.
Okay.
So We are going to move on to our next agenda topic, which is taking a step back and thinking about what we want our work schedule to look like for 2026. And I'll just remind you all that this is quite different from last year, where we had a recommendation and a report due. So this year's work schedule is more flexible in that sense. But also just a reminder, we do need to meet at least 4 times a year. And the director has made that request that the TAC keep close eye on the market and bring any new information that would be helpful for him as quickly as possible. Let me forward the slide here. So this is a work schedule that we put together, that staff put together. It's just a proposal. It mocks what we've done in the past, where, I heard during our debrief session how valuable having a panel of experts come in and speak to you all has been. So we kept that, and we've done that traditionally in April in the past. So you'll see that in April. And moving backward to March, I thought if we wanted to have a meeting to identify those speakers, if we need to discuss any special meeting processes, we could do that in March. And then we traditionally also review program data and retail site visits. Of course, we're in our January meeting right now. And then moving forward, May through September, you'll see that's really just a placeholder for special meetings. We can discuss more about that. I'm hoping we can talk a little bit more about this during this agenda period. And then the only other set meeting was suggesting was for October of 2026, in order for us to plan for 2027. So I'll pause now and let you all think and discuss on our work schedule.
So to clarify, right now, we don't have any dates set on our calendar, right, other than today.
Correct.
So we need to set at least three more days, meeting days.
That's correct. They don't have to be the specific days. I think we can manage that after the meeting. So you can take a closer look at your calendars, but it would be nice to set the months. And if anyone has changes, they need to make to the meeting time. Traditionally, we've met on a Thursday when it's Zoom, 9:30 to 11. This would be a good time to bring that up with the group. But again, we don't have to have it formalized today.
I mean, I agree that it's good to fix the days as soon as we can, to block the calendar so that, our calendars don't get booked with a bunch of other things before. But
yeah,
right now it's probably fairly open. I mean, I'm good with the hours of the Zoom meetings and doing a day in person in the spring. Or the summer, as long as it doesn't snow.
So how much time do you think it would take to get some of these experts lined up in April? Like, I'm thinking, reading this, it'd be an early March meeting to discuss potential speakers. And then April might be mid-April, and that's in person. Mark, is that kind of what you're thinking there too?
Yeah, I'm not sure how much it would take, but I think it would take some time, right, to line up the speakers. So I'm not sure if we have a meeting in March that folks will be ready in April. Might want to, maybe we have a meeting in March and then another meeting three months later, maybe in the summer, where we have the speakers, whatever that work, or maybe in the fall.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Is this an item that we need to vote on?
Pam, do we need to vote on the schedule?
I think, yeah, it feels like there's still more discussion happening, but we should vote on it, yeah, if we get there today.
But we're thinking next meeting will be early March, like.
Yeah, how are people? I think it seems like there's a couple of proposals floating around, like have the meeting as proposed in March, but then potentially not do the market updates until either summer or fall. And then I have heard a proposal of perhaps having a meeting in February so we can get a more guaranteed time to get the panelists in by April. And I think really that you need to be thinking about how are the panelists going to help you for the 50%, make any recommendations if you need to make any recommendations for that 50% blend kicking in May and July.
So, so the recommendation was already made. That was our report, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. If there's any additional recommendations, like if there's an emergency recommendation, a significant change in the market that you feel you need to bring to the director. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this isn't about adjusting to GREET because that's happening. That's in the works. It's more if something changes in the market, happens next month or the month after that you feel the director would need to know about.
So there's a lot of things that are happening, right? So there's the rulemaking that's happening. I think we need to get that process going and moving. So we don't want to impede in that process. I think that process should be a priority. Then maybe we can meet. So this is just a suggestion. We can meet in March or April. So since we have to have 4 meetings, if we just space them 3 months apart, we would have the next meeting in April, the following meeting in July, and then meeting in October. I don't know that there's a rush. Maybe I'm wrong to have panel, discussion panelists very, very quickly. So maybe we could use the March-April meeting to establish to have presentation either in the summer or in the fall, because I don't know that a lot is going to happen in the next couple of months. You will update, or BPS will update the regulation. That's an important part. Then based on that, we'll have process for reference of what the CI is and what the report will be. So I don't know that we need to rush to have another meeting in February to have a presentation in March. That's just my take on it, but open to discussion.
And I am not opposed to maybe meeting in person twice a year. I just know that when I'm in person, I for some reason I think it promotes better outcomes by us being just physically there, and just getting to know each other a little bit better, and we discuss a lot more openly when it comes to being in person. So, but I'm just throwing that out and agree that if we just plan for every 3 months, spread them out, we choose the ones that are in person and those in Zoom. It could help, but that's just an idea.
I like that idea, especially especially for the market update meeting. That might be really good to do in person. Yeah, thanks for that, Antonio.
Yeah, I also like that as an approach, but I will say, I think, Pam, your concern about us potentially needing to make an emergency recommendation is also important. But just thinking about the timeline for an emergency recommendation, is that something that could even change anything on July 1st, or is it just a recommendation that would have to be considered and then potentially need to change subsequent to the rulemaking that is, already in process? That is, if we were to make an emergency recommendation at the end of March, would that change anything more quickly than if we made it in April or May, given that the rulemaking is well underway at that point?
I can jump in if you guys would like me to.
Sure.
Kyle Diesner, Bureau of Planning and Sustainability. So I really don't think it's related to the rulemaking. To change the deadlines, for this summer would be a separate process, because that is in the city code. So that would have to go through council. Rulemaking is just a bureau process, so that's just something that we do with the city administrator. So I wouldn't worry about that. I think, we can still work with April. It definitely depends on what happens, though, obviously.
Okay, thank you.
Andrea, do you have any other thoughts about that? Because things can be challenging to get on the council agenda. I don't know if you have any insight into that.
Yeah, we're not planning to go to council anytime in the near future.
I just jumping in. I like the evenly spaced idea every 3 months, and we've given Matthew these broad powers to call an emergency meeting. So certainly something emergency popped up, he could do that. But I think that's great, and gives plenty of time to get the right speakers. So I would second that.
So just to recap what I've heard so far is it sounds like there's a proposal to change the work schedule and instead host a meeting in April, another in July, and another in October. The April meeting, the main purpose of that meeting would be to discuss panelists and determine whether that July or October meeting is like our preferred date for the panelists. And I've heard that there's a preference for 2 in person, but I'm still not sure which of those dates would be the preferred in person. So whether it's April and July or July and October, that I think needs more discussion.
For the panel, they wanted to be in person. So I would propose April and October, since July is summertime. I think we're gonna have harder time just generally getting maybe even quorum, but we'll see. I mean, people can prioritize it, but I just feel like staff are out in July. It would just be better to do that one virtually. My proposal.
Agreed.
I guess to state the obvious, the implication there being that we would do the expert panel in October, presumably.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if I can. I was going to see if I could do this live for you all, but it's not too complicated.
So one action item here, maybe for you, Pam, would be to propose some dates in those months, right? To meet members, and then whoever's a kind of majority availability on those meetings, and if July is not a good day, it doesn't have to be July. We could do August or something. But yeah, sounds good. We want to have it in Zoom.
So yeah. Does anyone want?
Especially the in-person meeting are, the ones that, because a number of us who would be traveling, kind of have to block the full day, if not the day before. So we need to, we need to make sure those days are kind of blocked, and then the Zoom is easier to fit in.
Is October a heavy travel month generally in your industry?
I think
not any different than other. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know it may be hard to vote on this without having the specific dates in front of you. So you could either propose, a range, right? Like say July or August, and then September or October. if you wanted to. Or we can just say April, July, and October and make it work. But I do think we should get a vote on this, just so we know that everyone's okay with the work schedule as proposed.
So do we have a motion for April, July, October? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I would include in that, Matthew, that April is in person, July is on Zoom, and October is in person. Just so everyone's clear.
We have a motion for that.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion? Not hearing any discussion. In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think that was 5 or 6. I'll do 6. There you go. Unanimous. Opposed?
Sure.
Nay, it passes.
Great.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was unanimous, so we had 6 votes.
Good. We've managed those actual dates. It's a lot easier to do that via email, and I will take time today to get some dates out to you. I'll stick with Thursdays since I didn't hear anyone say that this time was particularly better or worse for people. But if you changed your mind, now's the time to say it. Otherwise, I'll look for Thursdays.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, so in terms of next steps, we'll get those dates set. We'll have that calendar set well in advance for everyone. And then we will certainly fall within the bylaw, recommendations for getting the meeting notices out, preferably a week, but at least 48 hours in advance. I think everyone listening today will know well in advance of that when the April meeting will be set for. And I will get those questions answered on the bylaws and get those out to you well in advance of our next meeting. And it looks like I'll be seeing you in person. So that's fantastic. And Matthew, you can adjourn the meeting when you're ready.
Very good. Well, thanks everybody. Some time back this morning, and thank the public for joining. And meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
Andrea, Marty.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.